Right on. Today we're going to be talking 3 exercises that you can do that do not require stretching to heal low back pain. So everybody always thinks that you want to be stretching your low back once you feel a little twinge or a little tweak, maybe something catastrophic happens, and everybody always thinks about what's the best stretch. Well, the thing about back pain is that there's 2 pieces that can be going into it. The very first one is mobility. That's how far you're actually able to move the joint. The other piece is stability, and that's going to be controlling the movement throughout that full range of motion. So you may have an extended range of motion, but if your body loses connectivity inside that range of motion, your brain is going to send a pain signal to your pelvis and to your low back that something is wrong, don't move that way, and that's a lot of the times why you feel low back pain. It has nothing to do with actually being hurt. It's your brain recognizing improper movement patterns and putting your body in danger. So what we can do to fix all that is work on stability and mobility at the same time, and a beautiful thing we like to do called lifting weights. And the very first thing that we think about is how we can get our glutes turned on. The biggest muscle group in our body, it's also connected to the pelvis, so it's the very first thing that we want to think about in healing low back pain. Most people struggle when they have low back pain with this hinging position. Kicking your hips back is a very difficult process because it gets right into L4, L5, S1, and that's always where we run into low back problems. That's like the #1 thing that chiropractors deal with. So instead of working on the hinge, I like to think about using some weights that can help guide our bodies down in a more squatty position that's going to turn our glutes on and at the same time keep our torso as upright as possible. So we have this kettlebell here, and what I want to think about is bringing our heels directly in line with the bell. So the handle of the bell is going to draw a straight line across our heels. From here, we'll be able to come down. We're going to pick it up, and as we sink down, let the weight counterbalance so we don't have to worry about this hinging position. Normally in a deadlift, you would hinge forward. From here, though, we can use the weight to work on that balance, come all the way down, and nice and slow, bring ourselves all the way back up by squeezing our butt. A nice slow count to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and stand squeezing our butt. One more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stand squeezing our butt. What you'll notice when we do that is that the torso stays straight up and down. There's no hinging, and we're using the weight to drive us down so we can squeeze our butt throughout the entire movement, and we're not putting our low back in any pressure or in any danger because we are eliminating that hinge position. The next one we want to do is get as on one foot and work on some lateral movement, unilateral movements as possible. And my favorite way to do this, again, because we get to keep the torso upright and there's no hinging pattern going on at the hip, is your standard split squat. So we'll be able to take about 1.5 feet. So you're going to take 1 and then 1/2. The other leg is going to come back onto the bench. So you're going to be on your toes. And the same thing, keeping your torso, chest as upright as possible. Dip down as low as you can. And then driving up out of this front leg. Sinking the knee back and down. And just being very careful and aware that we're not hinging forward and putting our low back in danger, right? We use these tempos to slow the movement down as much as possible. The slower we can go in these movements, the more aware and the safer our brain is going to feel as we move through there. So if you think about the speed of movement, the faster you move, the more your brain has to be aware of where everything is in space, and right now it's just not trusting your pelvis, your glutes and your abs to be able to control that space, and that's why your low back is going to feel the pain. So this is much more dangerous than a nice controlled slow movement, nice all the way down, and then standing it back up. I love going with the 5 count on the way down. That way everything is nice and controlled, and your brain does not sense any fear. As soon as you get to a point in which there is pain, that's where we want to stop. There's no reason to push it. You're trying to build confidence with your glutes and your movement patterns so that your brain recognizes safety and that you can move well. So those 2 are my favorite way. We have the kettlebell deadlift, and then we have some unilateral movements to get us on one leg. The next piece after we've done the lower half of our body. So if you think about your pelvis being here, your lower half is your glute, and your upper half is going to be your abs and your core. A great way to work on core stability and the ability to breathe into your belly is a thing called a Pallof press, which we're working on kind of the anti-rotational functions of the core. So our real ability to stabilize our spine below our ribs is going to be a massive piece of eliminating low back pain and building that trust with your brain. So in the Pallof press, ideally we're going to take a band right about chest level, walk it out so there's a little bit of tension on the band. We don't want to be so far out that it makes it impossible. Something we can control with our feet underneath our hips. The band comes into our body and we just want to press straight out and back in. Nice and slow on the way out. And when you're out here, you'll recognize that the band is trying to pull you this way, but it takes all of your core muscles to be able to stabilize from here. So when you think about stabilizing your core, if we're always getting pulled around where you don't have the ab muscles, the core stability to be able to protect our low back. We rarely hear about people that have like thoracic spine problems or soreness in their upper back near their spine, and the reason is because we have this rib cage that holds everything into place. When we get below our ribs, we don't have any bony structures to protect your spine down there. We have abs. We have to learn how to turn them on. We have to learn how to breathe properly. So we breathe in through our nose, deep through our diaphragm, into our belly. Everything's nice and tight. And we push out. And at this point right here, at maximum reach, is where we're going to feel the most tension. So we're going to be able here, nice and slow and controlled out. We can hold it for 2 seconds and then back in. And you'll feel your body fighting that rotation, which is one of the core principles of understanding why your abs are built for stability and not just sitting here doing crunches. Take those 3. Don't worry about all the stretches. If you can learn how to move properly, bilateral, moving into some unilateral, and then core stabilization with these 3 exercises, you're going to experience a lot less back pain. Rehab, prehab, use them in your warm-ups. We'll see you guys next week.